Hello everyone and welcome back to Whisky Wednesday. Less chaotic this week, much more simple, much more down to earth. Whisky Works. It's a cool company behind me. Those of you that are fans of Compass Box, you may have heard a name in the past called Greg Glass. Wonderful gentleman, had the privilege of meeting him many a time, really down to earth, super chilled, loves whiskey, loves talking about wood, is really excited about woods and different types of woods. This is kind of like his in-house company with Whyte Mackay. So now he's involved with things like Fettercairn, Dalmore, Tamnavulin, Jura, probably the Whyte Mackay blends too. And this is like his little side project almost, and they're allowing him to experiment and kind of run his own game and do what he wants. This is one of the first two releases that are coming out. One of them is called the King of Trees. I always want to call it King of Limbs, like the Radiohead album. I always get mixed up with those two. But this one is called the Glaswegian. This is a 29-year-old, unknown, although officially I believe it's Port Dundas, single grain distillery. Now Port Dundas closed down. I can't remember when. I believe it was like 93. Feel free to fact check me. I think I'm wrong with that. I think Canvas was 93. It is a very small product. I believe that it's only 1,642 bottles. So a couple of barrels put together, 54.2% natural colour, no chill filtering, 130 pounds, 29-year-old rare. We all know how much I like grain whiskey. I'm a bourbon nut. I like Japanese grain whiskies like Cheetah. I love Irish grain whiskies that the Method in Madness released the last couple of years. I tried this with him at a tasting, fell in love with it. It's delicious and butterscotchy and thick. Along with Canvas, Port Dundas, those are my two favourite grain distilleries in Scotland. Unfortunately, they're both closed down, but you can still get good examples of those whiskies for not a lot of money. And I mean, like, 29 to 45-year-old whiskies for anywhere from 80 to about 200 pounds. So, crazy value, really good value. They're all cash strength as well. But every year, or I believe every sort of twice a year, Greg will be releasing two different products. So when this one runs out, he'll release another one. Might not be a grain, could be something totally different. King of Trees is a blended malt of a couple of Highland whiskies, which uses some Scottish oak in there too. So that's quite unusual. That's a little bit different. It's fun. What is Scottish oak? It's a great conversation. So check out their website, Whisky Works, because there's loads of information on there about it. But rolling onto this, old grain whiskey. It's going to be caramelly and butterscotchy and toffeed, but it might throw a surprise at us. So let's smell it. It's a really good mixture of the ABV. You do get the ABV. It swirls around the glass. It makes its presence known. It's not offensive, which is the key part of that. It's there, but it's not going to throw you off. It's not singeing my nostrils. And what we expect is there, but I'm getting like loads of Madeira cake, kind of marble cake flavours. There's citruses, there's like pears, there's apples, a little bit of kiwi, some exotic notes. And then the classic things of like banana bread, brown sugars, rich exotic flavours. I've used this analogy before, but the smelling old grain whiskey, it's kind of like falling into a dessert trolley when you're really drunk. You've got that big hit of booze, you've got these wonderful aromas of banana and caramels and toffees and pastries. And this just packs that in every way possible. Bit nutty too, kind of like salted peanuts, like honey salted peanuts, crunchy nut cornflakes. There is such thing as breakfast whiskies. Grain whiskies tend to be them. I'm not encouraging that, but you can drink whiskey for breakfast. But let's taste it. That's where the magic is. Just silky and velvety. We reviewed Johnnie Walker Blue Label a long time ago. That contains a lot of old grain whiskey, most likely from Canvas and possibly Port Dundas too, because they're owned by Diageo. And it has that familiar texture. Whether or not you like or dislike Johnnie Walker Blue Label, that's a personal thing. I quite enjoy it, but I think everyone should try it because texturally it's a very important whiskey. It has this thick, globular, silky texture to it. And this brings that out, but in a more full way, with being cash strength and with being 29 years old too. Second time around, I'm getting a little bit more of the alcohol. Again, it's present, but it's not offensive. A little bit of kind of spiciness, almost like a jalapeno-y, chili kind of vibe to it. Chili flakes, chipotle, those kind of things. But it's very complementary. I've always said if you have just like whiskies that smell sweet and taste sweet, that's the definition of one-dimensional. Grain whiskies do smell sweet, but they're going to have oak, they're going to have alcohol. And those two things, when they work together, can be beautiful. Some people can find them too offensive. I don't like over-oaked whiskies. I find it a bit too much. But with this, they're really melding together. They're really working together too. Like I said, I've only met Greg a handful of times, but I love Compass Box stuff. I'm starting to like a lot of the newer Whyte Mackay stuff, with the exception of Fetterken, but we're all aware of that. I'm really, really digging this. I like King of Trees too. I think that was like fresh and vibrant and really appley and green. And I think this is just another example of how fun grain whiskey can be for an affordable price from a brand like Whyte Mackay, which is not necessarily known for being that experimental, sticking to their guns, knowing what they do, knowing what sells. This is a nice alternative that fits in with that. 130 quid might seem like a lot to the regular viewer who's not familiar with it, but for a 29-year-old product, whether it's malt or grain, that's pretty good value. You're talking 1 year under 30, 3 decades worth of maturation for less than £150. It's quids up in my book. So that's lovely. I think it's a nice round 7.5. 7's like our average score. I believe it's not enough to get it to an 8. I have tried grain whiskies that are better for the same age and for the same money. But I think a 7.5 is a very respectable and approachable score for something like this. So if you want to experiment with these old grain whiskies, jump in, really dive into them. This is the Glaswegian, the 29-year-old from Whisky Works. This is the Whisky Shop in Manchester. I've been Phil, and I will see you all next week. Thank you.